After considering how funny it would be to look up can two-body wobble in a Newtonian gravity anyway, um, I made the joke that I actually Googled can two-body wobble problem, which of course I didn't. I said can two-body problem orbit wobble. So I said the problem and orbit. So obviously we're not getting any bodies wobbling. But anyhow, the short answer is yes, and the long answer is unequal masses. So that's a thing. Um, I mean, even it's interesting that even the sun is in a two-body problem with Jupiter, that it ends up basically overwhelming anything else in the solar system, and we end up with essentially a center point or a mutual gravity tug where the connection between Jupiter and the sun forces it to orbit something that's further away from not the sun, but slightly away from the sun. And the more objects other than the Jupiter, the more that there is for the orbit to be away from the sun. Fascinating. Orbit wobbles. Of course, two-body can still wobble, which is what I said before I even looked it up. Because, I mean, I had a reference in my brain of the solar system versus a galaxy core. Um, I had in my brain something about the strength of the galaxy core and the strength of an orbiting solar system to be essentially a two-body thing with caveats. But I mean, you end up going around the galaxy, but even then, you have a wobbly orbit. It's a massive, beyond crazy massive, wobbly orbit on the order of, um, orbit through galaxy, actually fucking wobbly. Like, that's the solar system orbit, but we have our orbit, and it be going to wobble around the galaxy. And like that's just nutty to think of. Like, okay, this thing, but we have that. That's the solar system. Shut up. I'm talking about orbit through galaxy, not the close up of the solar system. I don't need that shit. Go away. Can someone tell me the orbit of the galaxy in a picture, please? I don't actually care. My tablet's dying. Anyway, the point is, if um it was ever visible, what the fuck was that? Wait, hold on, shut up, stop everything. The press is. What kind of planet was that? But then the Earth escapes and something. What? I'm sorry. What is this egg shape? Oh. Huh? I don't care. Um, does the Milky Way orbit anything? That's a weird question that I never considered. But anyhow, no, yeah, this whole thing about how we go and we do a wobble sine wave stuff is like even going around. Um, how many orbits has our sun made around the Milky Way? That's an interesting question. Like you gotta wonder about that junk.
Did you know that there's a tiny little galaxy orbiting our galaxy? And it goes through us all the time on a cosmic scale. So this is the Milky Way, and that is the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. And when the two collide, they create supernova explosions and push gas and dust together to create stars. And that's exactly how our star was born 5 to 6 billion years ago. Since then, the two have collided twice more. And it's currently on the far side of the Milky Way where our galaxy is gobbling it up. But it'll come back in roughly 30 million years, so set your alarms. These visual...
This is another factoid I did not expect. And wow, yay. The freaking Andromeda collision? Yeah, that's one thing, but a mini galaxy? Okay, moving on. Back to the comment, I guess. So, two-body Newtonian gravity. I don't know if you understand this, but Newtonian gravity still explains the wobble. Newtonian was not, um, no, wait, screw you. That, that's more important, that's a more important question. Does Newton gravity predict wobble orbits? And the answer is yes. Newtonian gravity is a form of, well, predicts a form of wobble orbits. Or that's the answer they give. Um, so, first question, why did you think the two-body... When I first approached this, I thought of two-body problem. Okay, that's one thing. Then a second issue is, you mentioned Newtonian gravity, which I know is, like, it would make sense that you would maybe think that it doesn't, but, I mean, the attractiveness of one thing and then how they can have differences in whatever else. To put two-body system like the sun and the earth is just Newton's law of universal gravitation and predicts stable, closed elliptical orb, Kepler's laws. The wobble precession arises when gravitational force is about a planet, its multi-body system. But we've already looked up, can two-body problem have these wobbles? And so that is not the full answer, obviously. Um, what was my question? Does Newtonian gravity predict wobble orbits? I mean, that's a decent question. And it's like, yes. Or the Google fucking AI overview is like, yes. Um, Many two-body interactions. The thing that I get stuck on in the end of my question was, why do you think it's valid to say two-body problem? How many two-body problems are there in the entire universe? We're talking about the only thing that can exist is maybe just two stars that are orbiting each other, a black hole and a star orbiting each other, a planet and a star orbiting each other, or two planets orbiting each other. And all that jazz and nonsense can be considered whatever else. However, you don't... The perturbations that can happen, the wobble, let me explain to you something really important. The wobble, yes, it's dark right now. The wobble can happen simply due to the initial start in comparison to their stuff that can happen. So, like, when you have something that goes towards another thing, what's the reason that it would stay in a regular space? Well, if it's not all, all of it is considered moving through space. So it has its own, but the whole system of two bodies has their own movement through space. And so we end up with, there has to be understanding of some other junk besides just two body. I wonder if I should open my cranberry cocktail. I need other juices, and I need other pops, and I need popsicles and stuff. But anyhow, the thing is, the initial conditions of the stuff to do with galaxies and all of that stuff, or even more simple, just the stuff about how I don't need a lot of cranberry, that's for sure. Just how they can begin. Like, let's start off with the most basic thing we have, which is a very beautiful camera setup. And also, I'm sorry, it was not an important bit, it doesn't matter, I always gonna glow anyway. But anyhow, I have juice now. That's a good thing. That works. So what happens is when you got the dust and whatever else, and you end up with gravity doing its thing, coalescing into whatever it's going to do as it's tend to do, or you have the other option, your only other option is that two already formed bodies from wherever the hell they came from decide to get near each other enough that they're not really gonna stop being near each other anymore. So like, just magically, they just nudge, and then they are like, well, how do you even get that? Because like, you have to have something that's essentially moving at a similar speed or whatever, and then like it helps if it was a collusion and then they separate. That's the third. Obviously, you have a third option now. There you go. I need to eat these tater tots. God fucking damn it. I hate tater tots. But anyhow, the only thing I have to neutralize my drinks is ice cream. So that's what I'm doing today. Today we're going to scoop across the ice cream bar, and we're going to end up with essentially some of each ice cream, except for chocolate, which is the least amount of my concerns and wants in life, because I want the other chocolate. I want the strawberry and the vanilla. Sorry, I got a mental block because of ice cream and stuff. Anyway, this all looks very appetizing. Pink Pony Club? What? So, you end up with those starting conditions, and what can happen is that it starts off with objects moving in a weird way, and then you end up with the object's gravity of one type and another type end up forcing it into whatever coexistence that it has. Let's say that they're both moving on the same direction, and you end up with a thing, and then that thing around the other thing is nearby, and then the gravity of, like, if you just puddle jumper this thing and you're going by, you're you'll be like, "Phoop," and it's like it doesn't even care. The gravity doesn't have time to take effect. So you gotta slow it down, right? So let's say you slow it down simply due to the fact that now we're introducing a third body. Well, that doesn't really help. Well, I don't know, we got one straw left and it's pink. That's great. For the pink drink. This is what I drink, guys. This is all I have. I don't have other options. I have a popsicle I can add to it. That's not going to be a lot of flavor and taste. But who cares about taste when we're talking about science? So anyway, the object's moving through space, and at first I thought, okay, what if they have like an orbit around something? That's a free body problem. So then two body problem. How do you even conceptualize this? And it's like, well, best idea is to have something that coalesced, and then you end up with two different separate. And obviously, you're not going to be very perfect about things, so the chances of them being unequal measures is the bigger chance. And unless they are of similar doing of things, something, something, something. It's like the interesting idea of what if you have a nebula and then you have an object that goes through the nebula and that seeds a bunch of gravity into all of the area of that seed, and then that yanks a bunch of gas along with it. So you end up with two bundles of gas, because obviously you would have two, maybe, bundles of gas. Because as you go through, one side is going to have the perturbation to rotate this way, the other one's going to rotate that way, and you end up with two individual bundles of gas, perhaps. That's an interesting thing to think about. Also, the great attractor kind of looks like that. If you're looking at it forming, spoiler alert, um, it really didn't have to be that more complicated than that. So anyway, you get these two things. They're going to do their own thing. It's a lot easier if you get things that are like, okay, they both got flung out from their galaxy. Or from their, yeah, galaxy. Let's say that's the thing they escape. What are the odds of that? Um, it's not impossible. Some weird explosion. Boom. They suddenly are no longer in the galaxy. What are the odds of that? I'm trying to make a two-body problem, and I'm having its struggles. But it's like you could just have two things coalesce from the beginning of the ignition of the universe, and so we have these two items that are just near each other, and everything else maybe have already um, died away. That's not two body anymore. There's still like initial conditions from all the other stuff that would happen. But anyhow, you end up with it's never two. It's just never two. How do you get two? You get like the idea of two is like Pluto and their sister orbiting body, which I heard there's this video talking about, is Pluto going to become a thing again? And I don't remember where I heard this. Ooh. Okay, that's gonna be good. I love Poopy. Um, that's something I always expect to say when I see Poopy. It's a good show. Watch that. They have animations and a personality that's been growing for a while. Where the hell is the Pluto episode? Okay, that's just fun. You gotta watch some D&D stuff every so often, guys. It's really good. What is this? Dozing Dragon. 11 hours of fantasy medieval stories. What? How does this exist? That's crazy. We got like this 30-minute video of pure madness queens, and then we got this one for 11 hours. I'm gonna watch. Goodbye. I'll talk to you later. We